with fire escapes.
With open arms, Fire Services.
Fire Escape Services is going to give us a presentation. Everyone should have one of these. This is a document from the Department of Public Safety. It's an old document, okay? It's a specification for fire escapes. I recommend you make a copy of this, put it in chapter 10 egress, put it in the back of it, and you can have this for your records. This is a nice little document. And if you haven't signed in, sign in.
First of all, we have a brochure. If nobody has a brochure, there's some extra in the back. If anyone would like to have some additional industry standard documentation on fire escapes, if you want to give your card to the gentleman in the back there, and in exchange, I'll give you one of my cards, and I can set up a free class in your city. Now, I've taught at the 3 associations in Massachusetts. Has anybody been here or remember a class? I think we taught a class here 2 or 3 years ago. A similar class. Anybody was in that class? No? Okay, so next week, I'm going to be, not next week, next month on the 12th, I'm going to be down in Taunton teaching, I think it's Samboa, the southeastern Massachusetts. And then on the 19th, we're going to be in Northampton teaching a class over there at the Western Massachusetts Association of Building Inspectors. Now, just to give you a little history, and then I'm going to play something that will show you where this all started. We teach this class nationwide. We teach a 6-hour continuing education course on fire escapes. We've taught this class from Boston to Washington, D.C., New York, New Jersey, Seattle, Tacoma, Portland. Next month I'm in Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Tacoma, and L.A. teaching the same class. And this is a national problem. So I'm out of Boston. We have an L.A. office also, but I'm out of Boston. And this really started, does anybody remember the Station Night Fire? Right after the Station Night Fire started, I got a phone call from Channel 7. So that was around 2003. And they wanted to do a little story about a 1-minute piece on that people have fire escapes in case of fire. Sort of a tie-in of the Station Night Fire. I said, hey, you can get out on your fire escapes. It's at that time that I said, hey, I've been in fire escapes since I got hijacked by my dad when I was 10 years old. I'm 50 now, so almost 40 years I've been playing with it. So I know a lot of stuff about how it's done right, how it's done wrong, who does it right, who does it wrong. I'm going to share that a lot with you. But then when she did the piece, the one thing I told her was Hank Phillippe Ryan. Anybody ever run into Hank Phillippe Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
Hank Phillippe Ryan, I told her that on average, 75% or more of everything I inspect fails inspection. At least 25 to 50% of everything I inspect has an emergency repair that needs in order just to make it functional again. And she didn't believe me, so I said, okay, well, let me take you out. Then I brought her to downtown. I brought her down to the district, the theater district. And I gave her a 15-minute class. I said, let me show you what a fire escape is like, what's wrong with it, and 2 things you need. It must be structurally sound, must be kept painted, right? So I said, so you can violate a fire escape just with the fact nobody's been painting it. So that's an easy write-up. And the second one is a violation because it's structurally unsound. And I says, let me show you, unless you have keen eyes, what a structurally unsound is. Broken tread, pulling away from the building, obvious truck hits and stuff like that. And after that class that I did down by the Wilbur Theater, she said, okay, show me some fire escapes. I said, no. Walk anywhere you want, and you tell me if any of the fire escapes you see pass inspection. So with that 15-minute class, she then went about a class, and I'll show you what that is. So let me start on that one first.
I'm Hank Phillippe Ryan.
So that was in 2003. How many got the notice? How many have been updating? So, since that,
Cisco, can I ask a quick question?
you sure can. Yeah, by the way, everybody can ask questions all along. This is,
How, and I'm not just asking you guys, how do we get to a building that's not in table 106 with a fire escape inspection if it has a fire escape?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
How do we get to a building, like a business occupancy building, not in table 106, that has a fire escape?
I don't
It's
know.
in table 106 now. Fire escapes are required to be periodically inspected every 5 years.
It's in now.
On all buildings?
Yes,
All of them.
Also,
Yes.
Bridges, walkways, fire escapes.
And it's exterior stages.
All exterior steel wood
Yeah.
stairs.
Steel wood.
That's right. It's everything.
So what we're doing is when we go out to do a periodic inspection on a building, we're checking to see if it has a fire escape. Do I know where every fire escape is in Wellesley? No, I do not. Are we working on trying to get to that point? Yes, we are. It's on the back burner. Again, we don't have the resources. That's what it comes down to, huh? Trying to get
I'll
another inspector in my
I'll
office.
throw a suggestion out to you of what Boston did right after this. They made it so that every permit that gets pulled in your city now cannot be signed off unless there's a new certification. So if you have a building that has no fire escape, you're gonna make sure they'll sign off the final on permit. But if the building has a fire escape on it, to close the permit, whether they did electrical or plumbing or whatever, it doesn't matter what permit they pulled on that building. There's a check system now that says we can't close that permit until we have a current certificate on file. It's not asking for an inspection, it says we need a current certificate on file.
Right, my question is, how are they getting that information? Are they asking the applicant?
No, no,
If they
it's-
lie, just to let you know.
They need a copy of the current certificate to close
But what I'm saying to you is, how do they know whether the building has a fire escape or not? Does Boston?
Oh,
have
I
that
see,
data?
that is, so the building inspector's familiar with the building or not, or it could be a check question, is your means of egress internal or external? It's just an added checklist. Another way that we've suggested with different states and different cities that work together, they work with the fire department. And you know the smoke detector sign off, which then is the final piece before, they too have on their checklist, they add, so that the fire department works with you, says, as a final, they say, here, your smoke detectors, everything is fine, here's a checklist, by the way, I just need a copy of your current fire escape affidavit that the city official already has, can I have a copy? And they go, huh, what do you mean? That's when they take it back to you guys, so that you guys can get the fire escape affidavit, if they don't have one in.
Competent person, I believe is what the code reads as far as who can inspect.
I'll go over the structural engineers and or others acceptable to the building official. So we're talking about what Boston allows, what you guys allow, but it's right in your code.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Structural engineers and or others acceptable to the building official. So we'll go over that. Yes?
There's also a push out there to turn this around, to do our 106, 108, 110, whatever it's called now, inspections, to have it the responsibility of the owner of the property to have them to come forward to us to do it instead of us going to them. And also there's in the works, they're trying to develop a sort of allowing a construction supervisor, unrestricted construction supervisor to be able to do that and to supply that information to the building official. So there's a push to not put the pressure on us and our responsibility as of the building owner. It's his responsibility to have this done.
I'll
So
give you an example of what I've done nationwide and what's happening right now. One of these classes in Seattle that I did, somebody, they were out on the fire escape, third floor, and 3 guys fell to the ground. They did not die, and so you can imagine the lawsuits associated with that. But they brought us in because in Seattle, they went from dead last in fire escape awareness to number 1 because they now have a tagging system and a confidence test that we trained them on and we implemented there. But right now, every fire escape, just like an elevator in the city of Seattle, must have a tag, and it's a white tag. So the process, whether or not you do it on the state level, whether you do it as a local ordinance, every fire escape must have a 5-year tag. And I'll show you what tags. You have an example of the tags that we're using in Seattle and Tacoma and New Jersey and such. So I'll go over what the tags. So imagine now the next 3 to 5 years, because you're not going to do it in 1 to 3 months. Over the next 3 to 5 years, every fire escape in your city must have a tag. And that tag has all the information, including the last time it got inspected, by who it got inspected, and when the next day of inspection is. So that's currently being used, yes.
Are you also talking let's say, public buildings?
The law is anything that has a second means of egress must be inspected. So we've crossed that line that you've talked about, that every now and then there's a federal building. We're just doing something in Charlestown.
No, I'm talking about a mill building. It's just a mill building.
Everything that a fireman has to get in, or people are in it, they need to get up, has to have a fire escape. Is that your?
Yeah, it's not in our 106 table.
Yeah, I think the way we have the same situation nationwide where there's firemen. In some states, it's building departments that run everything, the inspections, and in some states, it's the fire department. And they can't even inspect single residents that have a fire escape. They have to sort of trip over the thing some other way. So I really can't answer that question. I think somebody else in here might be further up as to whether there's a way to get to the mills.
The fire escapes are a separate line item in the table. If a building has a fire escape, just the fire escape alone has to be certified.
Right.
Under a periodic inspection of every 5 years.
And we're going to go over everything that is possibly a fire escape. As the code said, all exterior, steel or wooden stairs. We can stop right there. We don't have to go any further down. 101.1.3, I believe. All exterior, steel or wooden stairs. Stop. I haven't even touched fire escape, it's further down the language. You know, balconies and all, and bridges and all that stuff. I'm gonna show you examples of that. So we're gonna cover that. All exterior steel wooden stairs. Right now, everybody thinks that a fire escape is just a steel fire escape. They don't really realize what wood, how many wood fire escapes are out there that we're just gonna cross. So we're gonna get, so. Now, I teach this class, and I have online, I'm gonna show you online, on the Fire Escape Engineers, on the Fire Escape Academy. On the Fire Escape Academy, I have fire escape inspections, I'll be teaching inspectors, just like yourself. Fire inspectors and building inspectors nationwide, from here to Seattle, from here to Washington DC, Chicago to Texas. The very same problem you're having here, I got about 400 or 500 videos. So if you want to see 3 to 5 minute videos, just type in on YouTube, Fire Escape Academy. Boom, there's hundreds of videos. So if you want to just, you know, at home, online, or during your monthly classes, just go to Fire Escape Academy and just look at videos. The last and best video that I have on there is going to be Washington, DC. I taught a class probably a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And the last time they wrote a violation, I think was in the whole year, they probably wrote a half a dozen violations in the entire city of Washington, DC. Not because they didn't want to write, they didn't know what to do after the fact, because it's, you know, these things are all been built between 1900s and 1930s, and they stopped building them. So I'm going to go rapid fire through here and show you quite a few things. But that story is what started it. Now, some of these classes that we teach are for continuing education credits if I go through an association. But sometimes I do classes in cities, and it's free. I'll go in and set up your city. If you have 3 inspectors or 5 inspectors, I'll send you some industry standard documentation that's on the back. So if you want some information, just leave your card with him in the back. We'll give you a card, and I'll get this information. And a lot of this is online for free. So let's, that first one that I was just showing you, that first photograph, was actually a live load test. And that's what happens every time you step out, firemen step out, and people step out on fire escapes. It's called the live load test. It either passes or it fails, right? And this is what happened. This is when fire escapes are going to get used, mainly, is when firemen are there. And in some states, firemen are controlling. About 30 states, the firemen control the inspections of their fire escapes. And they're kind of up on it. In some states, the building department watches the fire escapes for the firemen. They're all pissed. Because, you know what the gray-haired guys in the fire stations say to the dark-haired guys that are coming in? Ready? In case of fire, don't use the fire escapes. So imagine, the minutes it takes for a fireman to go up and save a baby out of there, but he doesn't use the fire escape. He uses a ladder, or he calls it in. Those 3 to 5 minutes is all it takes for the smoke inhalation to kill somebody right outside that window, or inside that window. That's it. So, there's been a perfect storm of, I call it perfect storm stupidity that's happened nationwide. It wasn't intended, but let me tell you the history of fire escapes. So in 1930, you can't build any more new fire escapes, right? Everybody know here that you can't build any new fire escapes, is that correct? Yes. On new construction. So let's get that clear. On new construction, you cannot build a new fire escape. So you dig a hole in the ground, there's no fire escapes on that building. But what about all the pre-existing buildings? Every pre-existing building can have a fire escape to answer their means of egress. So once they've gutted a building or done whatever inside, and there's no other answer to put a new staircase inside, guess what they're going to ask you at the building level? To put a fire escape on the outside. Legal or illegal to do that. So how many pre-existing structures, mansions, schools, they have a central stair, and there's no way to satisfy the means of egress without putting a fire escape on one side or on the other side. So they're there, and there's plenty of them. And they're not supposed to be around. They were supposed to be, when they stopped doing fire escapes in 1930, they said, what are we going to do with all these existing fire escapes? Well, they said, well, like the Jetsons, you know, in the year 2000, everybody's going to have floating buildings, and every building's going to be gone. And we're going to have all these super new buildings. And they said, well, what happens if somebody invents bubble gum, duct tape, paper clips, and they hold these things together? And that's where we are today. So 25 years ago, was fire escapes falling? Some were. More fire escapes falling today because they're all 75 to 100 years old? Yes. The one thing we're going to be talking about in your code is certification or test. And what everybody in the United States is getting, and I'll prove it here, and I mean I inspect all over the country. Everybody's getting opinion tests to the best of their information, knowledge, and belief. The fire escape is structurally sound and has to be kept painted. That's all you get. And these are called fly-by drive-bys, where a guy or an engineer drives down the road, not all, but some, drive by, look up, the thing in on the ground, they roll down their window, grab a check, give the client that little piece of paper that you want to stick in your file because that's all you really need. So it was the perfect storm of stupidity is that nobody's double checking, there's really no final exam for engineers out there. Well, we created one, it's called a confidence test. Do you believe there's no confidence test in the United States? We have the only confidence test, so we freely give it to anybody, just copy our confidence test. And some states have just copied our confidence test, because all it is a final exam. Did you check this? Did you check that? Are you willing? And what we're trying to get out of people is two things, and that's what today's class is all about. I want a certification of the word guarantee without any disclaimers, or I want a load test. So if I load test your fire escape, isn't that a guarantee? So as soon as I load test that fire escape and that thing falls down 2 years later, am I in any danger of liability as an engineer? No, I load tested it, that's what the law asked, and why it fell 2 years later, I don't know and I don't care, that's not my problem. But load test could be $5,000, could be $10,000. I'm going to give you what a load test is. If this is a table representing a fire escape, this is 4 feet by 10 feet, this is 40 feet. Times 100 pounds, that's 4,000 pounds. I got to bring sand, water, bags, concrete, lead, you name it. I got to spread it all over this fire escape platform, and it could be 10 floors of this stuff. Then I got to do the staircase separately. I got to watch it for 30 minutes, take all kinds of measurements. It deflects more than 3/16 of an inch. It fails the test. But then you know what a passing grade looks like? I'm going to show you what a failing grade looks like on if this fire escape I have to put 4,000 pounds on it, what it looks like. So what else can you give me based on your code that says examine and or test the fire escape? It's right in your code. What's the word examine? The word examine means a critical examination. And that means all that's exterior to the building, which is 97% of the fire escape, and we'll show you how to inspect it. And what's inside the building that you can't see, how do we inspect that? Well, if you can't inspect it, just duplicate it. Now you've nullified the need to verify the connection into the building. So we're going to go over that. So that's what today's class is going to be, is that can we get the word certification, which is used a lot in Boston. I need a certificate on this fire escape. We don't need a certificate, we need a guarantee. In lieu of a test, I want a guarantee. And that guarantee means that you're actually refurbishing the fire escape, no longer spot repairing. Spot repairs give you opinion confidence tests. It's my opinion that this thing is not going to fall. Well, guess what? Guess what happens when it falls? Guess who gets sued? Later on, I'll go into a case where in Chicago we're involved in litigation that a fire escape, after it was certified, a piece that was welded that had showed no signs of problems, broke after somebody beat the hell out of it while they were fixing the building. But it caught somebody in the head, and he sued everybody, including the city. Because the city was accepting these opinion confidence tests. Where's the critical test? So the word guarantee needs to start coming out. So I'm going to rapid fire through this and show you. Everybody's very familiar with this. It's on the back of your card. Anybody have a card? If not, on the back of your cards, you're going to see that this happened on Marlborough Street. This happened down in 72. The Herald reporter was there when he took this photograph. And the fireman, still alive today, the woman died and the child survived. That's a live load test. Well, he grabbed on with one hand and survived. She tried to grab around his legs. But this is the Pulitzer Prize winning photograph that won the Herald guy his photo. But in 72, and this is because in the code at that time is all fire escapes must be maintained at all times. Then they change it to every 5 years. So throughout the United States, there's 1 year you must inspect, every 5 years you must inspect, and some states still have must be maintained at all times. What happens when you have to maintain your fire escape at all times? Who are you putting the burden of responsibility on, really? The owner. And is he ever going to speak up and he's got a rotten fire escape that he's got to rent that apartment? So, so this one's showing the old code, but it's 101.3 right now. 101.1.3, I believe, is the code, correct? All exterior, bridges, steel wood stairways, fire escapes, and egress balconies shall be examined and or tested and certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years by a Massachusetts registered professional engineer or others qualified and acceptable to the building official, who shall then submit the affidavit to the building official. Let's talk about structural engineers. Every state has it. Some states allow architects. Do you guys allow an architect to inspect your fire escape? If he's competent. So now that's putting the burden back on you. So whenever you have an architect saying, I want to inspect some fire escapes, and you say, can I show me some samples of your inspection and your criteria, inspection criteria? Not many people do that, so make sure you ask for inspection criteria. What about in Boston? Who else can inspect fire escapes and sign off on it? G3 licensed guys. These are welding guys. I know, I got my G3 license. Anybody want to see it?
What is that, what license?
G3. G3 and above, actually. Do you know that an A license can inspect?
Is that an AWS standard?
It's not, it's sort of, it's not a standard anyway, it's just that it's been an acceptable fact that because you're a G3 guy, which is an ornamental guy, and I'll make window guards and railings and furniture, and by the way, somebody keeps mentioning, oh, you can sign off on fire escapes. I said, what? I can sign off on fire escapes? Like being a shoemaker and having a brain surgery license attached to it, like, oh, I can go back. And so what happens is, the biggest problem that we're having in Massachusetts is that the same guys who fix the fire escapes are signing off on their work. Oops. Now, I should know this, I've been doing it for 20, 30 years. Is there a problem? Oh, by the way, to avoid the conflict of interest, how many times do you think guys pull permits in your city to fix a fire escape? So a fire escape just shows up, an affidavit just shows up. So we're going to talk about the oversight, and whether or not, if a guy's going to be fixing the fire escape, should be the same guy signing off. Otherwise, he can be the guy that goes and inspects, but Boston right now is the only one that allows a G3 license. So how much work do you think engineers have in Boston, which has 8,500 fire escapes? You go to Chelsea, you think Chelsea takes a G3 license?
Could we just add?
Cambridge, that has Harvard University, do they take the G3? Yes. Somerville, no. And on and on. So every city sort of chooses whether or not they respect the G3 license alcohol.
Just a point, this section used to be in the back of chapter 10, now it's in the front of it. 1001.3.1, maintenance of exterior stairs and fire escapes, and then 1001.3.2, testing and certification.
That's in the amendments.
In the amendments, correct.
Right, and this is it's the exact code. The code didn't change. They don't tell you how to inspect it, they don't tell you how to maintain it, they don't tell you anything. It's just one paragraph. And this is a nationwide issue. Everybody in the United States has the same paragraph. And then they're supposed to, read into it, what it means. But we're going to concentrate tonight on tested, so examined and or tested. That's all we're going to be talking. And then they say they want the word certified. The word certified in your mind is going to be guaranteed. All other states, you have to, for example, in New Jersey, you get a violation to load test your fire escape. It's the first word that comes in your violation. Fire escape must be load tested. And or, you must satisfy the official that you've done everything short of load testing it in preparation for a load test. And what is that? You refurbish the fire escape and you've issued to the inspector a guarantee that the fire escape is ready for a load test. Now, if it's ready for a load test because you've refurbished it, does it need to be load tested at an additional 5 or 10 grand? If you got the word guarantee coming from an engineer?
No.
So you're looking for the word guarantee. You're not looking for opinions. All I'm going to be telling you is that in Massachusetts, all the way to California, the word opinion has been used. And we're going to eliminate the word because now you want guarantee with no disclaimer, or load test my fire escape in my city.
This is interesting because you almost got to have an attorney look at this stuff before you can accept it. Where's Paul Moriarty when you need him? I mean, had I known that, I would have been insisting on that. I didn't know this,
Well, we're going to go, this is the Channel 7 news piece. We're just going to skip through this because I played a better.
In case of an emergency, we rely on fire escapes.
There you go. Is this a fire escape? Is this a fire escape? Aluminum fire escape down in the south. Can you do an aluminum fire escape? Melting point of a fire escape of aluminum?
He guarantees, guarantee.
Aluminum melts at 1,000. Typical fire blowing out a window? 2,000 to 3,000. But is it still acceptable?
Yes.
Yes. Fire escapes?
By the way, aluminum, from my experience, you're asking for trouble. You see aluminum, be careful.
But there's a lot of guys down there was a guy that actually did aluminum siding. That's out of, especially in New Bedford, Fall River. Tons of aluminum fire escapes. Fire escapes? So far? Typical fire escapes? Fire escapes? Balconies, isn't that our code? Balconies? So these Romeo and Juliet balconies are on every building you ever see.
So balconies included in this section too?
I think it says it right there, balconies. How about platforms? How about decks? Is a deck a balcony?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
How about these guys? How about these waiting porches? We call them Romeo and Juliet balconies. Must be inspected. People are gonna get on them, fire are gonna get on them. If these two people get on them, they can get hurt. You need to inspect it? It's all exterior steel wooden stairs, balconies. How about these wood structures? Do you need to be inspected?
Worked out in Las Vegas.
Oh, how about these?
Yeah.
How many tenements do you have that the back is a wood porch with a stair jammed in it? Is that a fire escape or an exterior steel wooden stair? It's an egress.
Falls under the definition.
Falls in the definition, right? Exterior steel wooden stair,
Exterior stair.
balconies, bridges, fire escapes. Does this sort of get wrapped up somewhere in that whole definition? So every structure that has fires, that has the means of egress outside must be inspected every 5 years. How about these exterior stairs that go up to the second floor? Decks. This is 5 feet off the ground. Does that need to be inspected? And it's exterior steel wooden stair? Must be inspected? Yes.
Is this in the ITC or the IRC?
Again, I'm not up to speed on the 8 yet, but I'm telling you a lot of times. Go ahead.
I would suggest that this language is in the IBC, pertains to commercial buildings. I don't believe it's in the IRC. The IRC is one-family homes, so I can't make the connection.
Well, somebody mentioned that it's a separate line item, but here's the point. So what you're saying is, even though tenants and firemen will have to save the very people using these structures to get in or to get out, we should just not, there's nobody in here knows about a back door to pick these up. Because now we're getting into what's happening in some other states where the fire department can't touch residential, 1 and 2.
Housing code does it.
There you go, so now within here,
It's health department.
but all exterior, I think the code doesn't say all.
We're mixing apples and oranges here. First, you're asking, does this requirement apply? There are other requirements in the 1 and 2 family code. One at a time, please. The 1 and 2 family code, you're required to maintain it. It's a little bit different language. If you have a sanitation code, there's other ways, but all I'm saying is that this section here is reserved for commercial, non-family.
Okay, well, it doesn't say the word all.
But
It's
again,
just
it's
to the
different
code.
code.
So prior to this, everybody in every residential and every commercial was getting inspected under this code. So if it's been, excuse me? No, I'm saying in my prior classes, it was always right now in Boston, every residential and commercial is being inspected under this code. In Cambridge.
Boston's always been.
Yeah, well, I'm just showing you some of the things that are out there that needs consideration. Decks, we're gonna be inspecting these. How about catwalks into buildings, commercial or residential?
Catwalks or we call these things?
Handicap ramps and catwalks, I got a little mix of the two here, but all handicap ramps must be inspected also. Is there a bridge? How about anything that goes up to tanks, anything that goes up silos, anything that goes...
Bridges were taken out of that code. We specifically took that out of the building code because that falls under, I think, common transportation.
They're talking about skyway bridges,
Walking bridges.
walk bridges.
Okay. I
That's-
think probably intended to have it there, but,
Yeah, we wouldn't inspect any city bridges or anything that's a road bridge. This really applies to anything that's a walk bridge of any kind.
you have the competent scaffold.
This is the sky bridges. This is up in Chelsea. This is the school, Bentley College. It has a walk bridge. It's a privately owned bridge. So some of these need to get inspected. We actually inspected this one, and we inspected this one in, this is the Soldier's Home up in Chelsea. Fire escapes with ladders. Pre-existing, right? They're allowed to keep. Can you put a ladder today? How about various types of ladders? Anybody ever see what's called a accordion ladder? Very popular in California. West Coast, a lot of accordion ladders. And they act just like a ladder. They open up like an accordion and then you just climb up. Very solid and stiff.
That's up there with.
Sliding ladders?
New England with ice and
Exactly. Sometimes that's the whole thing. If it freezes up, you're done. Sliding ladders. How about people, have you gone to a place where somebody just took a Home Depot ladder and screwed it to the wall and they're legal or illegal? What's the only piece that's missing?
And they have a platform, you know.
They need a platform, then they can get to the ladder. Now, what's the other thing that's illegal? The ladder, was it installed via permit? Because if it wasn't installed via permit, and there's no permit on record, and they just threw it up there trying to sort of sneak in the back door to the old, I have a ladder. I used to have a ladder, and this is the first indication that it was done wrong. If it's not in a permit, you can make them put a full metal stakes to the ground. So be careful on some of these ladders that's miraculously just show up all of a sudden on a fire escape.
You know, there's something else that too is, when I've seen some of these buildings in the middle of January, the ice is 5 feet thick, top to bottom, and,
Yep, that's a gutter issue and maintenance. Spirals. Anybody see spirals as a fire escape means? Can you put a spiral today? No.
Now, if it's not required means of egress,
No, it's not already required. I mean, as a required means, can you squeeze it with a spiral? I've had spirals put in when it's the last, you've exhausted every means possible, you have no mathematics, and the only answer is there, and then under special request to the building official, you said, I can't put it anywhere else, I'm squeezed, and the spiral is the only answer, we put it. We did that for the YMCA in Cambridge, that the only answer was a spiral in a specific location, historical issues right around it, and all, spiral. So only when you've exhausted every other means and under special consideration have spirals popped up. But it's you guys that decide whether or not that goes in or not. But it's not a norm. You just don't walk into the city, I want a spiral fire escape on the back of my building. But they exist, but they need to be inspected. Cantilevers. Does anybody know how a cantilever works? Must be single action, requiring no special knowledge, drops 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down. Right? Where's that in the code? Nowhere. But, must be single action, requiring no special knowledge, and upon release or stepping on it, you activate it, so you have to activate it, so step on the first thing, it drops 2 to 3 feet per second by itself, hits the ground and stays down. Pretty simple, right? So, what happens, let me think about this in your city. How many people have cantilevers in their city? How many people have cantilevers with a chain in their city? No? All right. One of the tricks so that your fire escape doesn't look like that, it doesn't stop pointing to the sky, is that as the rust starts growing inside your box, it starts getting heavier. So now, I'm going to give you a scenario. For a woman coming down with a 50-pound child, the woman is 120 pounds, that's 170 pounds that you step out on the fire escape ever so slightly, ever so gingerly, to do what? Counteract the weight. As soon as she gets down to the ground, because the thing is going to come down, is it 2 to 3 feet per second or 5 to 10 feet per second? So it's going to come down flying, hits the ground, scare the hell out of her and the child, and she's going to hold on, and if she doesn't get ejected from the slam, she holds on. Now we got screaming kids behind her and stuff, so she gets there. She's 120, the kid is 50, 170, got it down to the ground. So she starts walking all the way down. She steps off, taking 120 pounds, the child is behind her. Not in front of her, the child is always behind her. And what happens to that 50-pound kid? Gets catapulted. Now, usually the kid's going to get catapulted in this fashion or this fashion, but the kids hold on. So let's not make this a tragic story. The kid holds on. The kid is up there 12 feet in the air. All these are 12 feet in the air, 12 to 14 feet, so trucks don't hit her. So does she run away from the fire? So she's got a kid there, she's telling the kid to do what? Jump down to mommy. Fire department shows up. They pull right out to the fire escape. Fire, child, a woman, and the fire department saying, get out of here, and she's my child, and the fireman says, let me get my ladder. How many minutes more? And then he finally gets the ladder, and he gets up there, and he brings the thing down by hand over the hook. He goes up there, gets the hook, and he brings it down, and he puts it down, and gets the kid off. The mom runs away. And what do we use? What's that fireman got to do now? He can't let go. He's the doorman now. He's got to hold that fire escape down with his foot, while everybody else does what? Fights the fire. So now we've taken one fireman off the crew, and he's a doorstop. He just sits there and holds that thing there. If he lets go of that, what happens? So fire escapes must be balanced, must drop 2 to 3 feet per second, hit the ground and stay down. It's an example of one being released. So violent event. It's in Chicago. Notice that there's all kinds of masonry and stuff on top of this. They use the fire escape as a working platform. Look at that. Without permission. Now, must be single axle requiring no special knowledge. I have no extending weapons like this. Now I've released it 2 to 3 feet per second. Hits the ground. What's it do? This is a big monster on a 5-story. Is that wiggling going to do anything? Is it going to shake anything? That's the reason I have to stay up. All day long down the alley. This stage visit just so happened after we're in trucks. I get a truck. That's how close they get. It's the tallest. I'll hit the old fire escape down an alleyway. All the time. Moving trucks, cement trucks, trash trucks, engines. That thing wasn't one release mechanism holding it up all the time. It was on down, so it's slowly. Did that truck see that thing? Wait, just like right back out. Will it be boarded after you hear the trunks and then go back? That was against all the fire escapes. That's your concern. You have a concern that, you know, these fire escapes now, it's that fire escape right there. That during that, you saw that whack, that hit, that violence, and that twisting and torquing. That piece of angle that was welded to it, which is a stiffener, fell on whose head? The owner's head of the masonry company? No. One of the poor slugs that was working his daily shift? Yes. Now, because that piece of angle was welded, showing investigated by an engineer, investigated by the vendor working on it, investigated by everybody, they had a hidden secret, and that is that the rust was eating the inside weld, and they couldn't visually see it. But you think all that torquing will snap a weld? Now, they were working for over 2 months on that site, using that fire escape every day on average of 10 to 20 times a day to go up and down bringing bags and equipment and stuff to the site. So after 2 months of repeated dropping that thing 10 to 15 times a day, do you think you'll torque and snap 8 or 9 welds?
Well, they got it re-inspected after they were done doing all that.
No, well, this day it hasn't been re-inspected, but the one thing that's mentioned, the guy who got hurt had to sue everybody. But he sued the city official because in Chicago it says you must do a critical examination. And the critical examination, which is the standard nationwide, is an opinion test. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is structurally sound and has been kept painted. Can you sue me on, to the best of my opinion? You're not going to get too far, because that's the problem right now. They're trying to define what the word critical examination means, because you have the same word in here. You have the word examine and certify. What's certify mean?
You know, I'm gonna tell you, we have the same problem with the user rights. We do those now, and you have to go to NDP, because you can't do a visual inspection, so you have to look inside the metal, and you gotta do a variety of tests to see if the welds and the bolts and everything is gonna perform.
So what I'm going to show you here today is how do you get, in your city, your fire escapes inspected. You load test them, or you give me a guarantee. And if I can show you a way that you don't have to make the client pay for a load test, and you can get some sort of guarantee in the form of the word certification, which is the word refurbishment. Because as soon as you take a connection, let's just use a simple connection, which is a tread, that has rust in it, and an old 50 to 75-year-old square head bolt. You have the city's full of them. And I take that bolt out, I clean all the rust out, I prime it, and I put that bolt back in. Can I use the word guarantee now? Can I also load test that and get you the same result? So I'll load test it, or I can just give you the word on my document that says, I guarantee it because I put in a new bolt. And in case that new bolt shears, who do we sue? The manufacturer of the bolt. So all you have to do now is eliminate the word. So if I can load test a fire escape with all the existing hardware, I'm good. If I can refurbish the same fire escape, and I can give you a certification that says the word guarantee with no disclaimers, is that protecting the city? Isn't that what it says? I need an examination or a test. So I either give you the test or I satisfy you that we've done everything possible to that fire escape, visible and invisible. So what do I do with all these wells that I need to take a very expensive x-ray machine to x-ray every well? What do? Can't re-weld. They've got fire escapes. We'll talk about EPA later. Anything older than 1978, presumed to have lead? Can I weld on fire escapes anymore? No. 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States are bolted connection anyway, so why are people welding them? It doesn't matter. Now the EPA is not letting people weld fire escapes as a form of repair. But the fire escape, a weld, the way I guarantee a weld is I get there and I just drill a hole, I put a bolt, leave the weld, put a bolt. As long as there's no rust inside the connection. This is a welded connection that I can't verify. But in order for you to give you the guarantee you're looking for, I just go to a welded fire escape, which is only 1 to 3% of them, only in your entire city. And I got to put a gusset or I got to put a bolt through the connection. So if I've got welded treads, I just blow a hole through it, put in a bolt, I can use the word guarantee with you now. But the weld stays. I don't have to take it out. I just need to nullify it. And either I x-ray the thing for thousands of dollars or I bolt. Done. Dollars versus thousands. Okay? Oh, I was gonna. Anybody ever hear of a slide fire escape? Slide fire escapes are like, they used to have them on military complexes, they used to have them all over the place, but they were built in the 1900s, in the 1910s, 1920s. This is in Elizabeth, New Jersey. There's a 12-story slide escape over here. And you come out a door on the bottom down here. And this is the door upstairs on the roof, and it's just these two little doors. And you open it up, and you jump down this slide, this dark tunnel. And you slide on your ass, you slide on your belly, you just go all the way down for 12 stories. Well, the story on this building was because they used to have, when it used to be heated by coal and stuff back in the day, one of the firemen there said his grandfather used to work in the building. They used to take coal ash and send it down the slide, simply because kids from the local parochial school used to come in, and that was one of the things. You had to like break into this building and go down the slide without getting caught. But they had a uniform, so they used to put coal dust in the slide, so that when the kids went down, they would come out. And but look at this thing. Imagine. That's cool. And this is a one-way system, and it's part of the means of egress. This building only has one internal stair, an elevator, and this slidescape, and it's still acceptable because it's pre-existing non-conforming building. Elizabeth, New Jersey. These are other slidescapes that you may have run. Anybody know of any slidescapes in Massachusetts? No. They basically didn't last very long. But basically, a lot of the schools. See, this is actually a school building. But a lot of military guys said they used to have those, and the first thing you did whenever there was an evacuation of your military bunk is you throw your bag down the thing first, because to get rid of the snakes and raccoons that kind of like to hang on the bottom part of this thing. How about these other types of ladders? The fold-out ladders and these bag ladders that everybody's buying. Those considered means of egress? Nope. This is considered a means of egress if this had a balcony, but can you install on these? And some people are buying these for their single-family homes, so that their attic space now has one of these. So you're not required to put a fire escape on a single-family home up to your third-floor attic, which was never meant to be a sleeping area. But some cities are requiring that they put in a fire escape. Insurance companies are kicking in and saying, hey, we want a fire escape regardless of whether the code is asking for it or not, okay? And then I've just shown you a little bit of a tour of all the things that are out there that are in various price ranges, right? Some of the latest stuff that's been approved now for a high-rise escape above 7 stories, because you know fire trucks can't get beyond 7 stories. So if you have any high-rise buildings,
So if you live in a high-rise building, you probably at least wondered how you would get out of there if there was a fire. Those fears became all too real for thousands of Americans. On September 11th, many were trapped in the World Trade Center towers as the floors below them burned. Well, now inventors are working on new technology to help people get out alive. Ari Otzer has a look at one invention.
And down he goes. Looks simple, and it is. the Recover All high-rise evacuation system being tested on this day by firefighters.
I think this is impressive. It looks pretty easy to set up, it's easy to use, it's hand-free operation.
A lot of fire
self-contained.
departments nationwide are starting to
I think
use
it'll
this.
work.
Our equipment was designed
Buildings
specifically
higher than
to
7
be
stories,
used by
in case
senior
they can't come
citizens,
down
by
low.
children. That's why we chose to design such fully automatic and in operation.
Press it between
That's
two
why
floors
we
and start
focus the
evacuating
victim
people this way.
inside a full coverage
You
suit.
can buy it yourself if you live in a high rise.
The first step for evacuation is putting on the big suit. Kind of makes you look like a baked potato, but this actually protects you from heat and flames if you're in a
Big
real
enough
fire
you can put a child in there with you,
situation. The
a dog in there with
firefighters
you.
let us go for a test ride. Picture one of these machines on your condo balcony ready to use, or in your high-rise office stored away for an emergency.
It buys you the time to escape.
6 floors up.
This is the third means to be
Let
used, not the
go.
second.
The
This is the
machine
third
lowers
means.
you gently to the ground.
A lot of fire
at a rate
departments are
3
utilizing
feet per
this.
second. The ride is smooth all the way down. You never speed up, you never slow down. It keeps you at that same rate all the way down to the ground. So the obvious question on everyone's mind is,
This
will
is
this system have made any
a system that they're
difference
selling
in
out
the
there
World
for
Trade
anywhere
Center
from
disaster?
$2,000 to $4,000 per system, depending on how many floors.
This cable they send
2 years ago, I was actually working with the Hancock Building in Boston to install one of these systems
Lieutenant
for
Mike
a
Nugent
client
was
that's on a
there,
very
part of
top
the
floor
South
of
Florida
high-end
rescue team working at
money,
Ground
but
Zero,
their
part of
employees
a
wanted to
team
get out in
that
case
discovered
there was a
5
fire.
dead firefighters in the
Since
rubble.
9/11,
We took it and we made it positive because we were.
So
able
this
to
is
find
2 to 4,000. Let's take a look at $2 to $4 million will get you nowadays. Now this guy invented this right after 9/11. He's out of Israel. And basically right now, this is again, the third means of egress. That means people cannot go down. The third floor is wiped out and the fire is forcing everybody upward, not downward. And the helicopter fleet that they promised hasn't been made or hasn't shown up yet to get everybody off the top of the building. So what you got is what's called the high-rise escape system. Now it's all on YouTube. You just go type in high-rise escape systems and this will pop up. The NFPA has tested and approved, not the word approved, but has checked out this system and the previous system. But the answer here for that is the collapsible elevator. And watch. It's all controlled by the fire department, not the building. And this puts firemen into the building, again, because they can't get out any other way. So that traditional way out, they would use the system. And this puts firemen into the building, and at the same time gets people out of the building because they've exhausted all the other ways. Staircases are blocked, or something has happened in the first couple of floors. This is a 20-story building. They're showing that various buildings can have ramps built to floor levels. This is $2 to $4 million. Now, multiple floors are being evacuated at the same time. Now, some building owners or some building officials are considering not only 2 means of egress, but installing a third means of egress. This is one of the considerations out there. Now, this is a building actually in Israel that has this already. To my knowledge, there's not one of these yet in the United States. But, as you can see, this is when you exhaust all the other means of egress. Okay? Wall fan. Okay? Fire towers. You guys, the firemen in your cities that are doing training on these fire towers. I inspected this fire tower probably 3 years ago, and my inspection, when I started hammer testing this fire escape that they were using up to the moment, all the treads started falling. So even the firemen, I got city halls that have broken treads on their fire escapes. No.
Yeah, they have a fire academy here, and they train on it, and it's always water.
Yeah, inside and outside. So we inspect fire towers all the time, and just so you know, metallurgists, and this is from our training because we're expert witnesses in some cases, it takes 25 years to grow a quarter inch of rust. It takes 25 to 50 years to grow a half inch of rust. How many years of unchecked erosion is here? This is the Soldier's Home up in Chelsea. This is where all the firescapes that have since been. This is what some of the load tests look like when there's a failure or a trash truck smacks it. of these is that during my inspection, I just hammer test them with a 3-pound hammer. I think this is Haverhill. Broken treads, missing treads. This is the detention center out here by this way. One of those youth detention centers. And I think it's off Route 9.
Oh, Lyman's?
It was, I inspected this one. It dawned on me. It was out this way. Look at the rest on this fire escape. This is in an inside courtyard. This thing hasn't seen a repair or an inspection in many years.
Does your company come in and sandblast or just cut the thing off the building and redo?
On average, most fire escapes, 90% of the fire escapes get refurbished. With the EPA renovator requirement now, the guidelines are just, what are you going to do with the chips and stuff like that. But just so you know, not all fire escapes have to be replaced. 90% of them, there's enough meat still there. But a lot of times we recommend that treads and gratings get swapped out for new galvanized ones, because that's where a lot of things really collect. Look at all this rust. This is a school down in New Jersey. All the treads that, I mean, it's just. Typical hammer inspection, 3-pound hammer. Good whack. Now that hammer test is for my safety. There's nowhere in the code that says you got a hammer test in fire escape. That's a critical examination to see if it's safe for me to walk up that thing. So a 3-pound hammer. And a lot of times people say, well, you're breaking these treads. And I said, well, I'll give you a brand new tread. I'll put 4 new bolts in it. I'll give you a 3-pound hammer. I'll say, shear those treads for me. You'll start smashing along, and you'll break your wrist before you can shear brand new bolts. And as you can see, all I did was just hammer tested one side, hammer tested the other side, and it just gave way, because that's you coming up or down during one of your inspections. We're going to teach you never to go out and look at a fire escape by getting physically on it. From down below or from the door, you can look out and you can see that it's been maintained or it hasn't been maintained, and that's all we're going to teach you. And all you need is evidence that it's been the original hardware has been swapped out. Because usually in 50 to 75 years of something left outside, how often do you think you should see a bolt change of some kind if the fire escape is 75 years old? Do you expect to see all the treads at least once changed out? So you don't want to see hex heads on those, square heads on those anymore. You want to see some hex. On the support that held the platforms that I'm going to be doing my load test, do you want to see the old rivets, the old square heads, or do you want to see some new hex heads on that? And the tiebacks into the building, do you want to see that verified, or do you want to see a new epoxy bolt right next to it so that now you're at 200%? So that's what we're going to talk about. Because when you start looking, a lot of your fire escapes, and I mean 80, 90% of every fire escape you're going to see in your downtown area, all the original hardware is still there, and there's no evidence of maintenance. Evidence of painting, but once you've let a fire escape rust in its 75-year life, you've let it rust at least once to the full rust. Has every connection been compromised? Has water got into every connection? Because the only way you stop water from getting into a connection, you got to keep it painted. Well, there was a period there back in '55 that we didn't paint it at all, and it got 100% rusted. And what kind of violation did you write? A scrape and paint violation. Guess what the client did? He got a couple of bids. He called Joe the painter on a 5-story, and he says, Joe, I got a violation from one of my inspectors. He said, scrape and paint my fire escape. And he took that, and he said, oh, how much to paint this fire escape? 5 stories. $2,000. I said, okay. And he does his little walkthrough, and he says, oh, by the way, you got some broken treads. You're going to get, oh, I got this other ironwork guy that I'm going to call. So he calls the ironwork guy. He says, hey, I got a violation. I got a couple of treads. Can you tell me how much to fix the fire escape before I paint it? He goes, oh, I paint the fire escape soon. So the guy comes down and says, oh, you got not just a couple of treads, you got a lot of problems here. I can repair your fire escape and paint it to remove this violation for $20,000. Which one he picks?
His kid with a spray can.
So now he's like, because you only wrote, and I've got people when I call up, I says, oh, I got a scrape and paint violation, I want you to scrape and paint my fire escape. How much? I said, no. They want a critical evaluation and then a paint. No. They hang up on me. They don't want to hear me. They want to hear the guy that says, oh, yeah, they want to scrape and paint, I'll give you scrape and paint. So you got to stop writing scrape and paint. What you have to write is repair, paint, test. When you write the word repair, what's it mean? Critical examination by somebody. When you write the word paint, what does it mean? EPA renovator must paint your fire escape to make sure that the lead doesn't get into the building. Test, what's it mean? Give me a certification, a guarantee, or a load test that this fire escape is good for the tenants to get out, firemen to get in, and put a tag on it. We're going to go over the tags. So I'm going to start now. Here's what happens when there's fire escapes that are have some problems. We've got fire escapes out there that are missing rails, the skinny platforms. We have fire escapes that need answers, such as spirals. So this is in Cambridge. So we can answer and put fire escapes on every building. Here's a load test, a live load test that went wrong. 3 kids were watching the fireworks up there. And this is a college out in Iowa. We were brought in to inspect. That's the fire escape on the ground. That's their blood. And what happened was, see that flag bolt right there? That platform right there, and there was another brace right there that had the stair that went back. That brace used to have a through bolt with a plate on the inside. So when the guys redid the shingles and redid the siding, he put it back through a half-inch hole. He put a half-inch lag bolt. An-inch lag bolt inside a hole that was ready to drill for it. It was nice and easy. You can put it in with your finger. So what happens is this thing fell, hit the roof, and hit the ground. Nobody died, but 3 kids got permanently maimed. This is our inspection, and like CSI, where do they put the fire escape and all the pieces? In a secure location or an open field down the street? So down the street in an open field, we find the pieces of this fire escape that were trying to destroy the evidence, and they forgot about the bolt. So we found the bolt in the field, still in the platform. So, and then they put the fire escape back. Not only did they put it back, but now they put it back. This is what it used to look like. The inside they put a plate, and they still put a leg to the ground. Do you need both? Do you need the through bolt to the building and a leg? This guy didn't know what he was doing, because not only did he put a leg on it, he put it onto the asphalt shingles. There's not even a footing. They just jammed it on there. And you see at the bottom, right there, I actually went there, because then he put legs on it, because it didn't used to have legs. So you can imagine the torquing that this thing was doing. I actually was able to go there, and we did this, and we grabbed the bottom, lifted it up, and walked it to the left, took a photograph, and then walked it back. Because where it was supposed to be lag bolted to the corner, the guy didn't even lag bolt it back to the corner. So you got to be careful. Oh, here's another test, live load test. This is in Boxborough. The fire escape is there, is now here. But there was people on it. There was a real estate agent, the buyer, the seller, their real estate agent, plus one of the trustees from the building. Live load test. They all fell under this mangled piece. They slid from up there, and they landed on just 1 story down. That's why they all didn't die. They were all able to call their lawyers.
Where from? Where?
I think it's down by, I think it's Foxborough. Down by Woonsocket, I think it's Foxborough.
Foxborough?
No, not Foxborough.
Foxborough.
Foxborough, right? No, it's down by Woonsocket. The name is... But it's
Foxborough's up in my district.
I'm sorry, it's way down by Rhode Island. I apologize. The name escaped. Way down by the Woonsocket area, but on the Mass side. Here's another fire escape that was a live load test. A fireman was saving a woman, fell through. The 2 treads let go, and a fireman fell through. He had to go back up and get her. Permanently injured. We were called on this case. We were there 2 years later and inspected the fire escape. Those 2 treads were perfect. Guess what was wrong with the fire escape? Everything else. 2 years later. So, let me get to a nice shot here that you guys... Who inspects the fire escapes? Massachusetts, engineers, and there are others acceptable to the building official. Architects in some states. So like you said, if you're going to let an architect inspect in your city, ask for credentials and ask for samples of their inspection criteria. Some people think city officials, the city official was just here yesterday. You didn't see anything wrong with the fire escape. He inspects it. There's nothing wrong here. Why are you picking on me? I'm like, because your city official doesn't inspect fire escape, but people think they do. And fire escape inspector. There's 2 licenses in the United States. The so-called the G3 license out of Boston is a license, but also out of California, LA, it's called a Reg 4 license. I hold both licenses. There's no other fire escape license in the United States other than the G3 license out of Boston and out of LA.
So Boston issues the G3?
You get a G3 automatically if you know how to put a little window guard together and a couple of railings. And by the way, you can now handle fire escapes, because you have an ornamental shop and you sort of...
I thought they're stricter now on it.
I thought so too, but that's what we're trying to work on. We're trying to see if there's going to be, when you have an inspector that claims to be a G3 licensed inspector, what are you going to ask for? Credentials, sample inspection reports, and inspection criteria. He'll sit down with you, and if he convinces you that he knows exactly what to look for, right? We have all that. We have all that information ready to give and show, right? If we're doing the work also, because it's a niche market, some guys inspect and repair. If I'm in repairing, can I inspect too? Or do I have to bring in an outsider?
There's no conflict.
Right, so if you bring in an engineer, that's the overseer. And that's what you got to do. In Massachusetts, you got to start separating the inspectors from the vendors. And if they want to be both, that's the one thing you got to look at. Because the G3 right now is used in some cities, but not allowed in other cities. They only want structural engineers. The G3 people can go in and just fix the fire escape, but they can't sign off on the fire escape. Okay? So in California, it's a $1,000 filing fee, 100-question test, meeting with the fire official, site visit to a fire escape to show them that you know how to inspect the fire escape. Then you got to submit the paperwork correctly, and if you don't, you have to start the process all over again. So, in some state, and that's the only state that has a fire escape license, it's a Reg 4 license. It's not as rigid here. I've sent off a letter to Gary Moshe saying that we need to reinvestigate. I wanted in Boston to have an F3 license, or a G3-F license, to basically say anybody that wants to touch fire escapes should come in and prove to the officials that they have the extra credentials associated just with fire escapes to do that. It's been 2003 till now. It's hard, but if anybody here knows anybody that can sort of help, clarify that issue, please let me know who that contact is, and I'd be more than happy to help out. I have the industry standard documentation. I have everything to basically make it so that anybody can inspect. Anybody can have guidelines. These guidelines that had to be made because they didn't exist since 1930.
Do you have any checklists?
Yeah, on the fire escape? Yeah, it's on the conference list. I'm going to get to it right now. So we're back to the adequacy. We're going to be examining and/or testing and/or certifying. Boston called it a certification. Does anybody else have another certificate in their city? A document of any kind? If you want, you're welcome to use the Boston certificate, but all it says is, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, this fire escape is in conformity with the building code 101.
We probably want to make a change to the code, because you use the word stair bridges, and I know it's not for vehicles, but we don't have that language in here. We just have all exterior stairways and fire escapes. So any pedestrian bridges, I wouldn't, it can be
Very rare do pedestrian bridges. It's an odd thing. I'm just saying it was in the code. You know what I'm saying?
We took it out because I think the intent was for pedestrian bridges, but they thought it meant bridges under DOT on the national law, so they struck it.
Other codes throughout the country is pretty much the same. This is all New York has today. Very similar. Paragraphs, 2 or 3 sentences, they say the same thing. All fire escape must be structured sound, must be kept painted. In New Jersey, any building that is part of a schoolhouse, charter schools. How many charter schools are now occupying buildings that are former office buildings, and their fire escapes do not meet the code? And you have 2 alarms, fire drills. One announced, one unannounced. They're supposed to use the fire escape as per the code. So how many teachers are forcing their kids out the window to a fire escape if that's one of their means of egress?
Well, the fire department has that, I believe, here. So you may want to be doing this and sending out to the fire officials, because they're the ones who are putting all the children out on these things.
Well, here's a typical fire escape inspection. This is a New Jersey inspection. This fire escape, in your eyes, pass or fail?
Yes.
Okay. I did the inspection on this fire escape. The reason I got called on this is because of a policeman answering a call fell through one of the treads. An engineer inspected this fire escape. Now, this is not to talk bad about engineers. There's bad inspectors, bad engineers, bad vendors, bad everybody. An engineer said fix 2 things. Fix that tread, fix 2 or 3 other connections, and this thing will pass. He's showing his letter. Actually, this is the, I think this will go into this, but let me just go back to the letter. This is the engineering firm signed, and he has 3 things he has to do. Scrape the fire escape, fix that tread, and fix a bend. I came in and I took the fire escape and I shut it down. I said, this thing is going to hurt or kill somebody. Who's right and who's wrong? Who's better? Who's not? It's not about that. It's because there's what's called a drive-by opinion. And you can have an opinion. You go, it doesn't look too bad to me. But where's the critical examination? So now, this is the kind of things that we're looking for. We're looking at rust that takes 25 to 50 years. This is the life of rust. When it first gets built, the first thing that happens on every fire escape is called surface rust. You can easily remove that, paint it, it does nothing to the structure if you keep it painted. The second thing that happens to a fire escape, if you don't paint it and you paint over the rust penetrates the connection and it starts the process. Once it gets through the connection, that connection, even though the bolt is still good, that bolt is being eaten every day. So that fire escape fails the test because now I can visually see rust in the connection. You let it go a little bit longer, and now it's got a 1/4 inch. As soon as it's got a 1/4 inch, it eats the bolt, it eats the rivet, pushes the 2 metals apart, and guess what happens? Now I don't have that pin there, because even though it ate through, sometimes it's sitting on that pin. As soon as the rust pushes it away, what happens? And then the last thing that happens is you step on it. You step on it. It's never the landlord. One of the greatest things that should be put in the code is that all landlords in the United States that have fire escapes should collect their rent through the fire escape. Mandatory. You have to put your check out the window, and all landlords have to go up the fire escape to collect their rent checks. A lot of fire escapes would be a lot better nowadays, but they can't do that. So it's this kind of rust. This is that fire escape that we looked at. This is part of the investigation of that fireman that fell through. And this is the rust that was still on that fire escape. And as we were walking up to do this investigation, treads were still falling under our feet.
Sir?
Yep.
Go back to the engineer's letter.
Sure.
Where's his stamp?
It's at the, well, that was his first letter, but his stamp is at the bottom. All engineers usually put the seal right at the bottom.
Can we go back?
Sure.
Amazing, just the imprint.
Yeah, but usually at the end when they give you this is an opinion first. This is not the same with certified. This is what you got to do. At the end, when he's done, he would issue the same letter on his letterhead saying the fire escape is structurally sound and has been kept painted, and then he would put a seal at the bottom. Okay? And on the confidence test, which I'm going to share with you in the back, there's a place for the seal. Thank you. There's a place there for the permit number. There's a place there for your name. There's a place there for the fire official's name. There's a place there because again, we've married all the known documents that are out there, including the Reg 4 documents, which I'll share with you and tell you how we came up with some of the confidence tests that we have. Because a lot of it is a mix of everything that's currently out there. But there was no confidence test, so we made one, and you have a copy in your folder there. So I'll get to it right now. Now, this is how all fire escapes are built. A lot of them are into masonry buildings or through wood structures. All masonry buildings are 8 to 12 inches deep. That's all it is. It's just a pocket of cement, and the piece of steel goes in there, and there's no cross piece or anything. It's just pocketed in there. Now, how do we verify that? That's one of the questions. If I'm going to load test your fire escape, the one thing that I have to do when I have photographs of it, I have to drill next to this and drill right next between the steel and the cement and verify that there's no rot on the inside. If I have 20 of these, I was going to do a sampling on every floor to verify that there's no water getting in. Now, the work it takes for me to drill that hole and then repack it, if I was to drill the same hole 3 to 5 inches away, put an epoxy bolt, a Hilti epoxy bolt 8 to 12 inches deep, then mechanically fasten this thing back to this connection. Do I need to verify this connection anymore? Can I just repack it and seal it and let sleeping dogs lie? So have I eliminated about 3% of a fire escape, which is the unknown, which I don't understand. I can't verify this connection, but as soon as I drill this, it cost me $25 to go through the whole process of putting an epoxy bolt next to it. It cost me $300 to investigate it and open it up and check. Because I'll show you some investigation photographs. they're in the 8 to 12 inches deep into the masonry wall. That's every fire escape in the United States that's on a masonry building. This is how they're attached. What about the bottom, where it goes in? Can I take this out of the building? Can I put an angle next to it so that it's a pressure plate and eliminate these pieces still going into the building? Yeah. But a lot of buildings are getting this because water's getting driven. You get the rusty tiers right underneath it. Inside, some masonry, very few of them, are through bolted. They actually have a rod that comes in, takes up the bricks on the inside with a plate of some kind. And there's a sandwich. A lot of times, otherwise, through bolts are only used for wood structures. Everything else is masonry, but the work that's associated with opening up those masonry holes is a pain.
Have you ever had any failures because the masonry ties corroded out, the facade itself was failed?
Yeah, that's one of the things we'll talk about. Aside from, we recommend that all fire escapes get truly load tested if they're 50 to 75 years old, at least once every 25 years. And that's one of our recommendations. And not only is it a fire escape being inspected, it's actually a facade inspection. Because we recommend that as part of the inspection, wherever the facade is 50, 75, or 100 years old, that it's really a critical evaluation as to whether this whole wall.
I get a lot of buildings with the brickwork is moving, falling away, and the ties are all rotted out.
Oh yeah. I got photographs of rotten tile. You can grow moss. You can grow all kinds of things if you give walls enough water. So you want a little garden on your wall? We have those. Water getting in just rots these things out. This is an inch worth of rust. This is a photograph out of the Boston Library. That's 50 years of unchecked corrosion. Grow ferns. You can grow a lot of things on fire escapes nowadays. Now, here's another way that you have legs to the ground. So if you have, a lot of them don't necessarily have to be embedded into the wall anymore. You can just have it connected over here, because as long as you have a leg to the ground and a leg here, the building is a leg, the leg is a leg onto a sawmill, you basically got a little bridge. So not everything has to be tied into the building, in this fashion, as long as you have a leg and a leg. So this occurs every now and then when you have the leg to the ground, and it's tied in sometimes with maybe a 5 or 8 inch anchor. This happens. When a truck smashes, water gets in there, it's the blow-up. This is water inside blowing the bricks out. And this happens because the veneer, water got in between the veneer and the masonry, got in there, expanded, and boom, blew it right out. And this is the only other way that fire escapes get bolted, and that's on a wood structure. It's got to have a through bolt. If you ever walk up to a fire escape and you got 8 lag bolts holding a fire escape on a wood structure, it's illegal. It's only a matter of time before all those 8 lag bolts will whip water to the wood and just rip right off and fall. All wood structures must have a through bolt. Now, if I get to a building in the inside of the bathroom and I can't get at this anymore, my only answer is to put a leg on the ground. As soon as I put a leg on the ground, then this is nullified. Because now, the building is a leg, the outside leg is a leg, I got a little bridge again. Okay? So there's quick fixes for a lot of these things. Cantilevers. You guys know that there's a release arm for cantilevers? They act as an anti-theft device, so people can't pull it down and break into the building. But also when you release it, what happens, which I did on that video, it drops 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground, and stays down. Otherwise, if it comes down 5 to 10, can it hurt or kill firemen? Can it hurt or kill a child or pedestrian underneath? If it goes 2 to 3 feet per second by itself and hits you on the head, will it knock you out a little bit? Will it scrape you up a little bit? Or will it kill you? No. Okay? So cantilevers. This is what happens when they're out of balance. Trucks come on from underneath and they just whack them because they're out of balance. And if you put a release arm on them, they are always horizontal. So here's a release arm that's activated, yet the thing is not working. That's what a typical release arm looks like. Can't lift it, can't drop it. Most of them are just so that it doesn't drop. This is what a mess looks like. When trucks hit it, things happen to it. Some things just don't make sense when you look at it like, what the hell is this? This is what trash trucks do to fire escapes. They mangle them, they twist them. There should be a fire watch immediately on this building. And this is immediate repairs that you need, otherwise they've just lost 50% of the means of egress of the building. It's the stepchild of egress, is what you call fire escape. Fire escapes have the connections at the top, connections at the bottom, holding the entire staircase that are always blown out. This is the part at the top holding the entire staircase. Forget about the treads giving way. How about the whole staircase giving way? This is a major hotel. The staircase is not even attached anymore. This is 25 stories. Look how much rust to grow an inch. How many times did inspectors walk by this without saying, dude, there must be something wrong with this building? Trucks backing up, into like moving trucks and stuff. They do this all the time. Now, why that? And then it's been there for so many years. I mean, rust has eaten the thing, and it's in a visual location. It's amazing how, if you let rust go, it'll eat everything. How about these spaces on all your old grading? All that is a little barrel. If you think there's any paint inside there? And there's a piece of raw 3/8 that goes through it, so that it'll keep all the flats separated 1 inch. The day you put it up 50 to 75 years ago, what's happening inside there? It's not rusty. Can we fix this? Can I pull that rod out? Put in new spacers? Can I weld that now with EPA requirements? No. Can I make a sandwich with 2 flats and secure that? Yes. Most guys will get in there and put a flat underneath and throw all the flats as a fix for these things. Otherwise, you flip these out, and the grading it's faster and cheaper a lot of times to just swap out the grading. But once these things rot out, you can never get them. There's no repair. Even on the treads, they have the same rod. So we have repair procedures that we're going to be showing, we're going to be talking to as soon as we get into the book right there. The repair procedures is, could one of the repair requirements be remove all rust inside a connection? Or you want to leave some there? Remove all rust or leave some? Remove all rust. That's a great repair guideline. On what connection? All connections? Well, we're halfway through, if not 3/4 of the way through our repair guidelines. Remove all rust from any connection. You want to prime that connection? Try putting it back together? Sure. You want to seal it from future corrosion. So you want to inject it, or if possible, if it's impossible, you want to seal it with 50-year silicone? Put a bolt in it.
How do you do that when you have connections? You can't get that certain areas.
95% of all the connections will separate. 95 of all connections, I'll be able to put a chisel wedge it in and get my 1/4 inch. And whenever I can get, and only a few, 5% of my connections I can't really separate in the moment, but I can change all the bolts out, jam a wedge in there to open it up, take my spray and spray primer into the thing, then inject silicone with a caulking gun, and let it squish back together, lose all out in every direction, and we run our fingers all. Welcome to Firescape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide. So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order. Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today. Cape Academy Inspector Training. Here we are in Lowell, Massachusetts. Bob, say your last name. Marsilia, Italiano? Si. We're here looking at, he's the building commissioner in the city of Lowell, and we have a fire escape right down by our feet. What's the greatest thing about this is we're going to be able to see all the rust in the connections. We're going to see all original hardware and squares. We're going to basically, he had a class today, and what we're basically looking at is a fire escape that no more paint is on it. So this is a perfect one because I can get my nose right into it. And this is a perfect example of everything that can go wrong with a fire escape. Let's talk about this one. And then we're going to go look at these other ones and a big monster that's on the back. So this may be a 10 to 15 minute video, but what is on here works there. So let's take a look. More paint and rust or more rust and paint? So that's all you need. Let's say they knew you were coming, Bob, and they painted this thing 100%. What are you looking for next?
The original hardware.
Original hardware. So let's show people what original hardware is. This is a square bolt. Square bolts. Square bolts. And some of these, so now let's stay underneath here before we get on that side, Bob. How about grating? Any popped grating of the spacers?
Yeah, the spacers are missing.
So what that means is when a fireman or a person steps and your leg goes through that, you get locked. You can't save yourself because now you're trapped with a bear trap. How about rusty tiers? Any rusty tiers indicating that water's getting into the connection?
Yeah, right there in front of
How about cement blowout into the back?
Yeah, you can see that too.
See cement blowout. Okay, let's take a look. Any damage from a truck or anything? Any bends on this fire escape?
So
Okay.
It looks like that might have been hit.
Got hit. Let's take a look at is it square heads or rivets on the supports? Are those original or have they been switched out in the past 50 to 75 years?
No, they're original.
Original. To let this fire escape rust this much, how many years? To get 100% of your paint off your fire escape?
25 at least.
At least 25. Is there any paint that you can still see left? But even though there's no more paint on this, does this thing, which is older than 1978, have lead still in it?
Yes.
So it still has lead. Let's look at all the rust in between the connections. All this rust. Let's look at your treads. Missing spacers?
Yes.
And let's look over here underneath. Better before you climb up above. If I had my hammer, I'd do a hammer test. Any rust in any of the connections?
Rust in all of them.
Rust in all of them. The bulge. You can see all the bulges, right?
Yeah.
Is there any of them that if you were looking up straight up, can you see the sky if you look straight up on some of these? You look over here. You see that one right there? Can you look straight up?
Yeah.
How about this one over here? See all the rust? Any of these bolts that are holding as best they can, any of them totally gone? Are they all suspect in your mind?
All suspect, yeah.
Would you allow any of these to be welded and remain in place? Because that's a typical repair.
This has on the top 1/4 inch gap.
Yep. Now let's see how it lands on the ground. Is this all rotting on the ground?
It's all rotted out on that side especially. The channel is completely rotted out.
So the channel is completely gone over there? Okay. So, and how much rust? 1/4 inch every 25 years. How long you got of rust there?
Well, that's 75 years of rust there.
75 years. All these treads are 1/4, 3/8, 1/2 inch. If I was to stomp along on these, you think some of these would give way? Some of them have been patched with some welded bars. This is a typical repair when these flats give out.
Yes.
Lots of bends and smashes. I'll go slowly up this fire escape. I won't go too far, but you got enough evidence here that this is a perfect candidate of how bad things get when you just leave it alone. Have your inspectors ever walked down these alleyways?
Yes.
And why didn't they write this one up?
Well, we haven't had the program yet. But we have.
Maybe they did and nobody paid attention. Maybe they didn't know what to look for. And if it ain't broke, why fix it? There's also other reasons too. It's just it's not the priority. People think these are great. They've always been great. That nobody's ever fell 25 years ago. Yeah. Nobody fell 50 years ago. And they think that these things are indestructible. But now this is what I call a hidden time bomb. This is a grenade with a pin already pulled out of it. A fireman or somebody coming out of that top is going to fall down these stairs and get hurt or jammed or stuck.
Yeah.
So this is part of the 101.3. All exterior steel or wooden stairs.
Correct.
Okay? Is this an exterior steel wooden stair?
It is.
Is there enough water falling on it?
There's plenty of water falling.
Got obstructions?
Yeah.
This is fairly new. This is not, this is 10, 15 years old. Nailed together. Safe, solid, you think? We wiggle it a little bit? Okay. Does this need to be inspected on the 101.3?
It does.
So all exterior steel or wooden stairs need to be inspected. Need a permit to repair this?
Yes.
Renovator's license?
No paint on it.
No paint on it, but they can stain it. There's no paint. How about this one? All exterior steel or wooden stairs. What is this?
It's a steel bulkhead stair combination.
This is a stair. This is somebody's. This is an egress. We're missing anything here?
Handrail.
Handrails are missing.
It's over 30 inches.
Let's take a look at that. There's water falling on it. These are all metal. Any bulging rails or this looks like an adaptation to a bulkhead plus a stair,
It is, yeah.
but it's missing its rail. It's fairly, what, 15 to 25 years old, you estimate? Does this need to be inspected and have a cert on this?
It does.
Okay, so because it's 101, all exterior steel wooden stairs. Now, let's take a look at this one. Now, this is going to happen a lot of times. You can't even get access. So let's talk about access. This door right here, which has a lock, is illegal because now these people cannot egress. It's very simple. On the inside, there's a push bar. That's all you do. So whenever you have these gates that do whatever this thing is doing here for the trucks, that must be able to be pushed out. So that's a simple modification to make that a crash bar door. And then if you mesh enough of this, you mesh this, then nobody can put their hand in and force the door open. Right. So that's a neat, but it's illegal to lock somebody in a cage. Now, let's talk about from down here, and I can't get any more closer, from down here, more paint than rust or more rust than paint on the entire fire escape?
It's about equal, I would guess, but
Right,
mostly
so-
paint, mostly rust.
Mostly rust, so it needs a paint job. Now, from down here, and I know you can't see to the 5th or 6th floor. You just need to look at the first floor. Any evidence of maintenance, any shiny hex head bolts in this 50 to 75-year-old structure?
No, I see a mix of square head and rivets.
Okay, square heads and rivets,
So it's 50 to 75
50 to
years
75 years old. No evidence of maintenance.
old. No evidence.
Is every connection on there suspect then?
Yes.
Any release arm on there that you can see that would let that
I
cantilever
can't-
drop 2 to 3 feet per second?
I can't see a release mechanism.
So you're not sure whether even the cantilever is balanced correctly?
Correct.
And you're looking into the cement into the walls. Anything that you want to share? Can you see any rusty tears and any of the cement going up?
Yeah, I see signs of spalling and rust
Okay.
at the
So
connection.
right from here, and what about the grading? Let's talk about the grading.
Yeah, you can see the spaces are rusted out.
Spaces are rusted out in a lot of the grading. So again, as an inspector from down below, and you start looking up, a lot of these buildings that are 50 to 75 years old have not seen a certification in at least 25 years. And it'd be great if they had a tag, and it'd be great if you can get out of this building in case there was a fire.
Yeah.
But here in this one little alleyway, we have a major egress system, and you talked about ACs in the windows, which is illegal. And you have units in in front of windows that people have to use to get out.
Well, they got the windows blocked off.
The windows are blocked off with cages. Again, a lot of that was because of security issues, but that's not they have to resolve
They
that.
have doors that lead out to the...
And they have doors, but sometimes the windows are the only means for another apartment. The doors are from a hallway, but every now and then to satisfy that piece of the building, they use the window to get. That's why they put that little add-on. So don't think if all of a sudden there's a hallway door feeding it.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason why they put that little half circle there. That half circle is to pick up that window to meet the means of egress inside, because that is the only second means of egress for that apartment is through the window, which is now blocked by ACs and units. So right from here, you have a fire escape. So right in this building, in this alleyway, and I don't think we have any more down here, you have what 101 covers. Wood, all exterior wood or steel, fire escapes. And this one is the best because all original hardware on this one. And this was a great one. Don't you think that it showed everything that could go wrong with a fire escape, it showed on this one. And this is what you use in training. And look at the staircase. See the whole stringer, how it clips up there?
Yeah. All
All original hardware. So sometimes it's not the treads that'll kill you, it's the whole staircase will let go and fall to the ground. So we're going to go look at some more Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Lowell with Bob, the Commissioner. And in this city, you touch a fire escape in this city, he wants a permit, He wants a renovator's license. He wants engineer oversight. Otherwise, this fire escape will not be allowed to be certified, or he wants a load test. Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. Academy Inspector Training videos. We're here in Lowell, Massachusetts. We got Bob Marsilia. He's the building commissioner here in Lowell. And we're doing some downtown walk around training. And these are just some of the standards that he's looking for. This is the Sun Building. And this is a great building to look at simply because it's beige in color. A couple of things we look for. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So did it pass the paint test? More rust than paint, or more paint than rust? So that's all you really need to know. But let's say somebody painted this whole thing. What other things can we look for? The next one for structural is original hardware. Any evidence of maintenance just from the ground. You don't have to go up 10 stories. Because if they didn't fix the first floor, they didn't fix the 9th floor either.
No, these are rivets too.
So these are all rivets indicating that this is older than 75 years old, because rivets are 75 plus years old on average. Square head bolts are 50 to 75 years old on average. Now, do you see any icing or dragon tears and rust coming down the wall?
Everywhere.
So that means you know that the wall is getting penetrated with water. Let's look at the grading. Is the grading showing any displacements on the spacers that keep the grading?
Yeah.
How about the treads going up? Do you see rust between the angle clip and the flat bar on each side of the stringers?
Yes.
When you're looking at the clip that holds the entire staircase up above, does it look like it has original hardware or any repairs, any evidence of maintenance anywhere?
Negative. No, it's all original.
There used to be a cantilever here, I believe, that they took out because you can see all the cuts, and they put in this fold-out. And this fold-out ladder is an example of what you can put in some cases when the city allows it. But you lift that latch, and when that latch opens, this ladder actually opens to the right side, and it opens up into an 18-inch. And a lot of times you can find out whether it's in good condition or not if you can pull it just by, but it looks like it's frozen because if you don't keep these things oiled and greased, they don't open up even when you release them. Yeah. A lot of damage. You can even see that the bottom plate up there is pulled away. Okay, so now this is a very obvious. Now also, you have an EPA rule here. Fire escapes that are older than 1978 have lead as a base. You think this fire escape has lead?
Yes.
So you need to be a licensed renovator. So anybody fixing this fire escape is not only have to be a licensed renovator, must pull a permit to do any repair work on this, must have engineer oversight, and the engineer must make sure that there's a permit pulled. The engineer needs to do 3 to 5 visits, and on a fire escape of this magnitude, it's probably going to be 5 to 10 visits to verify every connection. And into the wall, what do you want them to do? You want them just to patch up at the veneer level, or do you want to verify or nullify these connections into this wall?
They all have to be, they can't be verified because they're all failed. You can see the
Right,
expensive rust.
right. Lots of tears everywhere. So on this one, would you recommend individual connections back with epoxy bolts, you know, the Hilti's 8 to 12 inches, or would you want unification, which is a piece of angle 3x3 going along the whole length underneath, and every 2 or 3 feet as per the engineer's order, epoxy bolt all of it, the angle, and then the angle clip ties back into all these T-bars. Because you know what the problem is with the wall on this in the front of the building. Would you want individual epoxies, or would you want unification as a better method here at this building?
Probably unification, but then the existing individual beams that are coming out look like they may be in need of replacement in some cases.
Well, that's a different story. That's either sistering. You're mainly concerned about the tie-ins, because even if they're rotting near the beginning, we can sister that up and pick it up because the angle, the 4x4, can pick it up beyond any rusting or any problem at the wall level. Yeah. But unification is what I would recommend here because we have a problem wall on this building that's older than 1920s. So unification would give me more strength than individual. Yeah. So this one is an easy giveaway because this is a beige fire escape on a white building, and you can just see all the problems. But let's look over here. And again, you don't see any evidence of maintenance. All original rivets. This is 75 plus years old. Yeah. Let's look at this one and what kind of bolts you see here. Rivets or squares?
It's a square.
And this is a dark, gloomy day, so it's dark here. So you know, for you to be seeing fire escape rust, it's very difficult. I mean, you can see rust on this one, but now you're an inspector and you're coming down here, so it's an easy thing. More paint than rust, or more rust than paint on this fire escape? What do you say?
This looks like it has more paint than rust.
Okay, so you can't get them on the paint maintenance issue, but now let's take a look and see if there's been evidence of maintenance. Let's just look for any square heads. So on from the side here, any of the gussets, you see any hex head bolts anywhere? On any of them, you see any shiny new bolt anywhere?
No, they look like they're all original square heads.
So they're all original squares. Let's take a look over here on this cantilever. This cantilever, any evidence of maintenance? Any evidence?
No,
You see rust blowing out?
I see a lot of rust. I see square heads.
And you see this contraption here, they've attached things to the cantilever. You got the weight box on both sides. Any maintenance to the weights? Release arm, perfect release arm. Look all this smashed release arm.
Yeah, the release arm is not working because it's in the open position now.
Yeah,
so
it's in the open
obviously
position.
It wouldn't be working. So this thing is
Out of balance.
out of balance. It looks like it was pinned up.
And let's see where it's pinned. And it got hit by a truck. Do you agree that it got hit by a truck?
They put a wooden dowel above the door to keep it from dropping.
So they got.
You can't.
It won't even come down, so you got a life safety issue now because these people are going to come walking out as far as they can until that dowel gives way, and then what's happened? You're going to have a collapse. How about obstruction? We got plenty of obstruction on this fire escape?
Yeah.
Okay? You look up, you got evidence of maintenance on any of these treads and any of these fire escapes going up?
No evidence.
How about the wall, going into the wall? You see any rusty tears? Any blowout? Any spalling?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So even if they painted this fire escape, the fact that there's no hex head bolts anywhere is evidence that there's been no maintenance in 75 years, in at least 50 to 75 years. Let's take a look at this deck. This deck is made out of steel or wood?
Steel and wood, it looks like.
So cement to a wood lip of some kind.
Yeah.
You think that's safe or rotted?
It's deteriorated.
Okay. So
Wood
let's.
decking is all rotted. You can see it's got
Yeah.
asphalt on it.
Let me tell you something. This building right here, whose fire escape is this? Is this the right side fire escape? Because it looks like there's a door up there. Because it looks like this fire escape on this independent building shares this fire escape. So who has to pay for this fix? It's this building. Because this fire escape belongs to them. This fire escape uses this fire escape to get down. Now, do you know what happens when a fire escape, do you think that was truck damage? Right there?
Possible.
Well, I mean the bend, you think
Yeah.
people came out and bent it? Or you think
No.
it was truck damage? Now, are you aware that the law says that in case there's truck damage, whether you know who it is, this is a hit and run, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Whether this was done yesterday or 25 years ago, the insurance on this building will fix this fire escape. This is what we call a fire escape lottery ticket. Because I have to fix this fire escape and bring it back to operational condition. So the owner who's going to get a violation on this, if he gets the right guy that knows how to advise him, he's going to say, dude, the insurance company is going to fix this 100% for free. Simply because if you know who the truck is that smashed it, no, I don't know, then your own insurance with your deductible of $1,000, $2,000, or $5,000 is going to fix this thing 100% because I got to bring it back to operational condition.
Just the damaged area?
Not the damage. The whole fire escape must be brought back to operational condition. So, no, because this is a different building. If this building was hit for any reason, he feeds into this one. So the insurance company has to fix this whole cantilever for this guy that you're going to write a violation on.
There'd be electrical up there.
Yep. Electrical is usually 10 feet away because you stop pouring enough water on this fire escape during a fire, it's going to cause an electrocution of some kind.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, these guys who are writing the violations, they don't see enough of this. But the beauty about your new system is that when they walk back here, they put a yellow tag or a red tag here. Which one do they hang? They red tag this one. What about that one?
That's definitely a red tag.
These red tags are going to do what for the firemen?
They'll keep them safe. They will realize they can't go up on them.
And what about the tenants who pay rent here? What would a red tag do for them?
Might be able to withhold their rent.
Withhold their rent and say, hey, it's not safe. Make it safe for me. So this is alleyway inspection, Fire Escape Academy inspector training. We're here in Lowell, Massachusetts. Inspector training.